Hey everyone, welcome back to Automation. So today we are going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be trying to replicate a Group C car, and by trying to replicate I mean copying the design of it, but literally nothing else. So the body I've chosen is this one. It's the 1985 Coupe. I have used it before in trying to make a race car. It was a failure. So today I'm going to try to redeem myself. Now this suggestion comes from somebody who has said it twice. They suggested 12,000 RPM. We're not going to get up to that. Probably going to shoot for maybe like 8,000 RPM because I have gotten something new, which I'll show you in a couple of seconds here. So this is what I'm thinking for chassis. Basically it's just the lightest stuff, and I'm going to try double wishbone and pushrod as well. We'll see how that goes, but this is the real thing right here. Thanks to the people on stream who donated, we've got V16 engines now, and it's time to use them. So we could go for a 4-liter, but I was thinking that we could also try for a higher revving engine and go for something that's a little bit, well, smaller. So it's currently a 2.4 liter V16, which is pretty small. Max size that we could get if we put up the stroke and went for torque would be approximately 4 liters. So we're losing quite a bit of displacement in the name of RPM. It's a sacrifice that we have to make. You might have noticed that I set the year back to 1990, and that is because most of these cars were around in the 90s. Actually, 1990 is a bit later. It was all in the 80s. So I figured that we'd go up just a little bit so that we can get some better technology. Hopefully that helps us. One thing that they definitely did have was twin turbos, so we're going to put twin turbos on this. We'll just go for the race preset quickly, and then we will tune it later on. And unfortunately we can't go direct injection because it didn't exist yet, so we can only go for EFI, which is not great, but we'll just have to stick with it for now. Alright, and we definitely do not need any exhaust at all. So it currently makes 322 horsepower with a nice little blip in the line there as the boost gets built up. I feel that it's probably not going to make too much power in the low end, but let's see. Okay, just a slight tune and we're up to, what are we at, 460 horsepower? That's pretty decent. I'm anticipating that we can get maybe 600, but as you can see, like, this curve is just like it's just a bump. All of a sudden it hits boost and then it just takes off. Up until then it doesn't make much power. Alright, so I've turned up the boost and we're up to, oh goodness, it's like a shelf here. Alright, that's a little bit more smooth. It's still like really low and then boosting all the way up. That's kind of what we're getting with the smaller displacement. Because I don't care about fuel economy at all, I'm just raising the fuel mixture higher and higher. And we've made it to the 600 horsepower, but what I'm going to try and do... Oh wow, we actually have like seriously high RPM as well. No issues with any of these. That's pretty much all that we're going to get right now. We could definitely make more power with this engine, but I want to try and smooth out the curve a little bit. Let's see if I can do that. So I think for the sake of this car, I'm just going to say that that's good enough. I know that is not good tuning. I mean, the cars that I make are never perfect, but I'm going to leave it as is, and let's test it out and see how bad this turbo lag is. 1990, really bad turbo lag. It kind of just fits the theme, you know what I mean? Alright, so here is the body in question. Last time I didn't style it as well as I would hope that I would, so this time we're going to leave it, well, like thin here and see. Also, I'm not going to paint it brightly colored. We could maybe go like a blue. It's unfortunate, but this only has primary body, so we can't like paint just the top or something, which would be pretty sweet. Okay, so it's slowly starting to look the part. I'm going to skip to Drivetrain. Now, I don't know if these cars were actually all-wheel drive or not, but we're going to go all-wheel drive for the sake of our sanity. And I am going to try 5-speed manual as well. So it can get up to 348, we'll do that. So I really like the wheels that we used in the last build, and so I'm going to use them again, but this time I'm going to paint them in a similar fashion to this car that we have that we're sort of trying to replicate. So it's got chrome outsides and gold insides. It actually doesn't look too bad. Alright, fixture time. Let's see what we can do with this. Now it has some big lights, but they're like dual. This is going to be an interesting one. We're probably not going to be able to match it exactly, but we can try. So these are not the right lights for this at all, but I think this is sort of what I'm going for. I want it to be indented and wrapped around. These ones look terrible. Even if we made them like black, which is sort of what these ones are, I don't think it's going to save it. Actually, this is interior color. And then that, nope, that's not black. But yeah, even if we made them black, it's not going to save it. But this is sort of the style that I'm going for. Oh wow, we can put some massive eyes on this thing if we want to. That's not terrible. I mean, they're too big, but it's not too far out of what it actually looks like. Fortunately, it's got some clipping issues. I mean, we could try and move it up and down, back and forth, and see if that fixes it, but not bad. I'm actually going to stick with that. The actual version of the car has double lights, but we're just going to stick with one. It's our interpretation, as always. Now, we want the lip to actually correspond with arrow, because we're going to need some big arrow as well. So what we can do is we can just put a huge lip on the front. In this case, I think it's black, so we got to change this to be black. It's starting to come together. It's a little bit rough right now. We just need some grills to tie it together, I feel. So I'm taking some design liberties here with the front, and I've come up with something that's kind of interesting. I actually like that the way that this is turning out. What we need now is something up here. I think that the actual car has a bit of a bump. I mean, this one does have a bump, but we'll add our own as well, just to mix it up a little bit. I'm not sure if it's getting better or worse. I feel that's sort of the general thing that happens with these builds. We definitely need some vents here, though. We can stack them up. That can be quite interesting. Because this car is so flat, I can actually add our own canards, I believe they're called, which is very cool, so we're totally going to do that. It's definitely a unique feature. I haven't gotten this down yet, but still working on that. So something that this absolutely needs is just a massive wing. That is a necessity here, so we've got to slap a huge one on. I'm thinking, well, of the stock wings that I have, unfortunately none of the mods seem to be working. This one is probably the best. I think that the wings on these cars are mounted like off the chassis, so they're mounted back here, but we're not going to be able to do that from what I can tell, so we're just gonna have to put a huge wing on the top here. So very oddly, if you make one of these vents huge, it's easy to see with the carbon fiber here, but it will always have a little indent. So I think I'm just going to make it translucent so you can see that V16 hiding in there. So I don't have a back for the car, so what I'm going to do is just take some creative liberties. Hopefully it turns out okay. This is what it's looking like so far. I've got some exhaust on the sides, put these big vents here, put a little bit of trim on it. I just felt this looked a little bit too empty. We have some vents on the sides, which I noticed it has probably for the driver. Some kind of vent on the back because it is rear engined, so it needs something. I noticed that the door handles are here for some reason. We've got mirrors, we've got these would be probably brake vents. I just put these things on the hood here. Also this, we have our own custom canards. And I put a little bit of a badge here. It's an owl. So not sure what this is actually going to be named yet, but we'll see. Oh boy, that's not good. I want to add one of these back little pieces, but a lot of them are just not going to work. Some of them are just kind of basic, like this one here. It just doesn't work for this. So interestingly, this piece will actually cut out part of the body, because usually it comes all the way down here. Somebody might be able to use that for something in the future, but does not fit this. Alright, so here is the back end. I know what you're thinking. Yes, those look like trailer lights, but don't worry about it. It's all about functionality over form. So I've decided to call it the Owl. So it's a Group C Owl V16 and 630 horsepower, which is pretty sweet. Actually, I forgot to add something here. TT, it's twin turbos. Cannot forget that. So one thing that these cars have that we don't have good options for in this game, unfortunately, but we can add some stickers to try and emulate sponsorship. This might not turn out well. It might turn out okay. I'm not sure. If it doesn't turn out well, then I'll just scrap it. But I'm going to test out a few things. So one thing we definitely need is a number, and that is what this is. We are number 27. I don't know why, I just decided to do 27. So my hope is that some of this lettering can distract from some of its other things. Because right now it's, well, interesting, I'll say. We definitely need a 27 up front, though. Is any car complete without a giant thing that says turbo? I don't think so. I mean, we practiced this on stream. Alright, with a couple of details, a couple of decals here and there, I think we've come up with something that can be considered mediocre. Well, hopefully it drives well at least. Basically, I just took a bunch of these. I haven't used these before, but I like them. Just kind of put them around. It seems to just add a little something to it. And, well, I can't complain about that. It matches the color, it matches the style, and it's a bit of an interesting looking car, but I think it's worth it. After all this time, let's go back to Drivetrain. Now, we set this up just a little bit. It turns out I put up the top speed higher than it should be. Spacing wise, we're going to need to be pretty high with that because our torque is pretty bad. Okay, we need tires, so let's go semi-slicks, as big as they can get. I don't want to widen the fenders. I know that this car can get some pretty wide fenders, but I don't want to widen them. I do want to go pretty big rims, and I want to go pretty big wheels as well. Now, these cars generally were around 900 kilos, so we don't want to go too much more than that. Race pad type, definitely going to be high in that. We'll raise up the quality of that as well. I know that the quality sliders being all the way up don't necessarily make things work well, but I'm going to go for it anyways. Wing angles and such, we will have to mess with that in a second. We're going one seat and no entertainment. We don't need the interior quality to be up. We will go ABS this time because the last time I made one of these, it was a disaster, and the ABS was part of that issue. We'll go hydro pneumatic, race preset, and wheel spin. Uh-oh. That's not good. So just for reference, it currently weighs 1,100 kilos, which is good. 633 horsepower, V16. Yeah, just don't look at the back end for too long. Alright, so looking at the graphs here, we need to adjust some things. The back brakes are too small. The chosen power distribution seems ineffective, so if we change that, we should be able to fix the wheel spin a little bit. So we'll lower this down. Oh, and we have fixed the wheel spin issue by raising the top speed. That's good. So it's only going to have an 89% chance to wheel spin in second gear. Honestly, that's actually a little bit better than usual for my cars. Alright, back to brakes. So the rear brakes are too small. We need to raise those up. I believe that the ideal situation is that this blue line be above the other line, which means that our red line needs to go up a little bit as well. And to raise them both at the same time, you just can increase the pad type. I'm going for a braking max load of 0. I don't know if that's correct or not. We will have to adjust it at some point. Now, we do have downforce, which is good. We're going to have to mess with that a little bit as well. We want to have a bunch of downforce. Especially on the rear, we need a ton. So I'm going to raise this up high. Top speed is going to probably be an issue. Okay, and now we've got front wing angle as well. Unfortunately, we can't adjust the downforce separately, but we can do these wings, which means that we actually have at least some control at top speed, which is good. Now, the top speed will have lowered a little bit. That shouldn't affect the wheel spin too much. Alright, power distribution is fixed. Car terminally oversteers. Front dampers are hard. Rear dampers are hard. The car has issues with wheel spin, yeah. Okay, let's go back to suspension. So all I did was set a race preset. One thing I've noticed about these cars is they're kind of turning into monster trucks. Let's lower the ride height all the way down. I know that's a mistake waiting to happen. And we will lower the dampers as well and see what it thinks. So it still says that they're hard. Too hard still? Okay, we need to be watching drivability when we do this, because we want to have decently hard dampers. So it seems that they want them at 3, and then on the front, it wants them down at 2, and we seem to have 100% sportiness still, so I'm willing to stick with that. We're still having wheel spin issues. We could turn camber down to 0, and potentially help with that a little bit. The front camber setting is high, increasing service costs. Okay, who cares about that? This is a race car. That's actually surprisingly few warnings, all things considered. Let's take this thing to beam. Let's drive it around and see what it can do. The Owl V16 twin turbo will fight on the track, and I'm very interested to see how well it does. Alright, so this is how it turned out. The Owl Group C car is actually decent looking in beam. One thing that it fixed was the glass over top of the lights, and that actually turned out really nice. It's overall pretty decent. I think it's a little bit too high. That might just be the nature of the suspension that I chose, but it actually looks good. Now, I've brought us to the automation test track. You should be familiar with this place if you have been watching these videos for a while, because this is the track that I tested last season's cars on, and I figured let's take it around this track unofficially just to see how it does. So taking off in the V16, there are a few things to note. I have driven it around here before already. One thing that I should mention is that I am using a controller. People seem to think I'm using a keyboard because my driving is bad. No, that's just because I'm bad, so don't worry. I am using an Xbox One controller. However, the car itself drives pretty well. 600 horsepower is a good amount. I think that it's not necessary for this to be a V16, but, well, we don't have to worry about that too much, because it doesn't need to exist in the first place, so why not put a V16 into it? I really like the shape of it. I think that the straight body style I went with, instead of widening the fenders, was a good thing. I feel that this car is pretty quick. I don't think it's as quick as stuff like the Vomero or the Hill Climb car. I mean, the Hill Climb car isn't going to be run again, but the Vomero 3.0 is incredibly fast. So we'll have to see how it does around the track in a few minutes, but for now, just driving around the automation test track, this thing just loves the high speed. It is really good at high speed, and it's really good at running into walls as well, a requirement for me. I think styling-wise, it came out okay. I actually do like the back end. The turning and reverse lights, maybe not, but I do like... Oh, I totally did not stop for that. Rip. So, oh, interesting. Maybe we have a new light design right there. Yeah, so what I was saying is, the back end actually looks decent, surprisingly. The front end is okay too. I like the decals. I think they kind of distract from it just being a giant blue car. I wish there were more. I could probably download more through mods, but I just haven't done that. So I might look into doing that. So yeah, I'm just driving it around the track at this point, just kind of enjoying it. I like it. These cars without wheel spin are considerably more fun than the ones with wheel spin, just because they're easier to drive, they're more controllable, and they're just kind of generally better. So let's take it to another place and see how it does in a different situation. Right, so we're at the dockyards. This is not exactly the place for this car. It is definitely made to hit that boost and take off rather than the low acceleration that it currently lacks. But, well, as soon as we get on the highway, it might be fixed. If we even make it to the highway. Goodness. Alright, here we are on the highway. If we can cruise without crashing, which, I mean, would be a miracle in itself, and you can see... Okay, goodness. Alright, okay. I notice that the mirrors are jiggling slightly as we drive along. Well, I guess the build quality is a little bit questionable. Alright, so this is the area that we did the fuel efficiency challenge in way back in Season 1. Did I just break it already? And I figure, well, we'll just take this nice long straight and go for a quick top speed run. I know that there are much longer places to do it, but this thing can get up to some serious speed. Once those turbos kick in, it just starts to fly. I'm enjoying it quite a bit. I'm surprised I haven't done more, like, dedicated race cars yet. We'll have to see how it goes in the future. Alright, so we hit about 300 before we disintegrated. So I'm going to consider that to be about 300 on the highway there. That's pretty decent. So this is the part of the video where we test my skills as well as the skills of the car, which was made by me. So it's, again, my skills. But anyway, our fastest time on the leaderboard so far is the Trig X. And in second place we have the Panther Tree Turbo, which is last place as well. Second and last. Not a great title to hold. I figured that this car is probably going to be faster than both of them. I still haven't tested the Vomero and the Brodozer. I know I said I would last week, but I will do that eventually. I'm just not ready to do so yet. I want to put some good times down with those cars to like really show what they can do. So yeah, let's take off, see what we can do here. Hopefully this car, this Group C Owl, can stand up to the competition. Alright, taking off with this car is pretty slow. Its 0 to 60 is pretty low in comparison to its weight and horsepower, but unlike the F1 van and other cars around its same area, it is actually drivable, so I consider that to be a bonus. This is just my first time around here, so don't expect anything too crazy, but so far so good. Oh, a little bit on the grass there. Now, I've mentioned this before, but this course is sort of a mixed course. It has some good straight areas, which we're coming up to soon, and it has some really good tight corners as well, where you definitely have to stop. So this car will probably excel, not in stuff like this, although that was actually really good. My goodness, I can't believe it. I might actually complete this without having to do tons of laps. Alright, so we've hit the big straight here. This is a pretty decent section where we can just fly. Although, gotta stop here. Oh, that's a little rough, but not too crazy. And we're going out in the sand. Well, that's a good excuse to try and see if I can do those sections even better than last time. Alright, we've actually made it through this time. I am concentrating and trying not to look at the time at all. We're almost on the lap because this is a pretty short lap here, so we should be able to finish on the second go, which is nuts. I think that shows how controllable this car is. And I just crashed it again. Goodness, the finish line is literally right there. Alright, here we go. Coming around this corner with some proper speed this time. Actually going to make it this time. Let's see what kind of time we can get. 1:29. Is that faster? Yes, it is. Okay, good. So that is a full 8 seconds faster than the previous time of the Trig X, which is kind of what you expect, because this is an actual race car. So, yeah, not bad. So, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you did in the comments. I know that I made mistakes on the build. People always point that out, but it's just kind of the reality of things. I am not perfect in any way. But yeah, we're going to continue with this series in a few days. This car will be in the description. You can download it on the Google Drive and mess with it how you want to. Yeah, you're going to need the V16 DLC though, so just keep that in mind. One thing I'm looking for is input on the channel. I want to know what other games you want me to play, or what you'd like to see me play. I don't have an Xbox, so I can't play Forza, but stuff on PC I can do, so let me know what you think, and I'll see you in a few days.